The Joe Paterno Sandusky incident didn't teach the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Inspector General Michael Horowitz a lesson. They are protecting George Anthony, the molester, the murderer of Caylee Anthony. I have sent the Inspector General's office in New York City a complaint concerning not only this corruption by the FBI, but a list of other big-time crimes, including the John Corzine ripoff of the MF Global accounts, the PIMCO case that rigged the Treasury futures market in 2010, a second time after they did it in 2005. But the big one, of course, is 9/11. So, you see, these people who have the obligation of law enforcement, for some crazy reason that makes absolutely no sense, are involved in a stream of corruption, but in particular the George Anthony murder. I'm going to explain right now how this happened, why it happened, and the evidence that proves it happened. On June 16, 2008, Caylee Anthony was in bed in pajamas with Casey. She either got up and strolled into George Anthony's bedroom, or he came and got her. Either way, George Anthony molested Caylee. How do I know that for a fact? Well, I do, because what other possible reason would George Anthony have to murder Caylee if he wasn't concerned that Caylee was going to tell about his molesting her on that morning and changing her clothes into shorts from pajamas? The shorts didn't fit her. She had outgrown them a year before. And at 9 o'clock that morning, after thinking about, I have a problem now with this murder. I'm going to try to blame it on Casey. He broke into Casey's room, woke her up at about 9 o'clock, and said, "We have to find Caylee. We have to search for Caylee." And they did. They looked all over the house. Of course, he had stashed her body so that they wouldn't find it. They went outside, and Casey obviously looked in the swimming pool and saw nothing in the pool, including the ladder, which was down. She indicated that to both psychiatrists that came out in the April 13th deposition. So during this deposition that was right in front of the prosecutors, Ashton and Burdick, along with the defense, which was Bias and Mason, who Bias commented that he had never heard her tell him what she told Dr. Weitz and Dr. Danziger, because they knew how to put Casey at ease so that she would explain all the details that happened on June 16th. So Bias admits this in his own book. So you see, this is a really incredible case that hasn't been resolved yet. And the only reason the FBI is protecting George Anthony is because they're really protecting the Florida State Attorney, Lawson Lamar. They don't care about protecting a molester and a murderer. They're protecting Lawson Lamar and Ashton and Burdick for the witch hunt. And why on earth the defense, Bias and Cheney Mason, would protect the prosecutors is because they're all in bed together. And it's important for the American public to learn what really happened in this case, because this case is the cornerstone for the 9/11 case, for the John Corzine case, and for only God knows how many cases that I don't really know about that the Department of Justice is protecting, the same as Paterno protected Sandusky, in cahoots with the Penn State athletic director and other officials of Penn State who destroyed the Penn State reputation. I mean, don't you think that will teach the Justice Department and the Inspector General of the Justice Department a lesson? But it hasn't. They don't want to hear the evidence and understand what really happened on June 16th that murdered Kaylee Anthony and put this innocent woman on trial for a witch hunt. They don't want to learn that they think winning a case is the objective. Justice has nothing to do with it as far as the Department of Justice is concerned, as far as the Inspector General for the Department of Justice is concerned. So winning the case and complete lies and crazy behavior by these officials of law enforcement is par for the course in America. You see, the arrogant Americans don't want to know what the government is doing. They don't want to know about 9/11, the facts that point directly to George Bush, John Ashcroft, that are clearly evidenced by the book called The Commission, written by Philip Shannon, who also conspired to hide all these stories that he wrote in his book and published in 2008 when he knew about it in 2004 during the 9/11 Commission. And he never wrote about it and exposed it in the New York Times. So you see, the public in America is being deceived all the time by the media, by the propaganda that the media constantly perpetrates to brainwash the American public. And the American public doesn't want to wake up to this. They want to stay in their fantasy land because they don't want to know about the corruption of the government that they elect, that protects the bribery that goes on every day in front of them, which they like to call greed and money and corporate greed, and never use the term bribery. Never say, wait a minute, we're not going to keep electing these people when we know they're taking bribes. Why are they taking bribes? Because the perpetrators want to stay out of prison. The perpetrators in the mortgage meltdown that are throwing millions of families out of their homes as a result of the mortgage crimes that we all know about, as a result of busting the entire banking industry that we all know about. Okay? It's cloaked in complexity. That's what they say all the time. It's all too complicated for anybody to understand except me. It's not even close to complicated. And do the American public, do they want to know? No. They don't want to know. You see? So, what good is a democracy when the public wants to remain ignorant? and elect corrupt government. It's insanity.